Hello and welcome to this new episode of the Values Workshop. Of all the things that I could think of, I didn't think of this one in particular. I have with me my good friend Uday, who spends most of his time meditating, but also is a technical guy who's done work in the US and India before. Welcome Uday to the show. I'm so glad you could make it.
Thank you. Thank you.
The reason why I brought up the meditator bit is because this series is called The Other Side Of.
Mm-hmm.
So the other side of a meditator is something that I didn't think of. And I have been running this in my head very happily. So I have my first question for sure. There is this whole aura around meditation. People think that it's some sacred thing that we are doing. How do you perceive meditation in your experience, more than your particular philosophy of the word? I would want to know, because you've been doing this for a longer time, like some of my friends. How do you perceive meditation in your daily life?
I think when we start off meditation, it's because of some question we have in our mind or some problem that's bothering us. And as we go along the journey, we realize that meditation actually helps us contemplate on what we are supposed to be doing with our life, and how we're supposed to live every moment if we can be aware of what we're doing. And I think it's and when we start looking at for those opportunities at work which give us a lot of fulfillment, we realize that somewhere it is becoming a meditative process where you get deeply involved in it. You're one with the activity. So now I do feel if one lives life well and meditates well, they kind of come together and gel as one. I think that's what.
Okay. What is the difference between a meditative way of doing things and a non-meditative way of doing things? Is it only attention to certain things that you're doing, or is there more to it?
I think attention for sure, definitely. But I think we also bring another aspect to work, in that it's not so much about me and achievement. It's more about being in the process.
Yeah.
And then accepting whatever you face in the process of doing work or living. I think that is if one want to differentiate between a meditator and a non-meditator, is someone who's really aware of what he or she is doing, is fully involved in that work, and hopefully it dissolves your ego and the process becomes happy.
How much does this process, how much of it is conscious and how much of it is just habit, or how much of it is subconscious? Are there any demarcations to these, or is it just a habit? Like when I eat, I just eat. I know I'm eating. The food is touching my hands and I like it. It's tasty or not tasty, whatever the scene may be. What is the special kind of attention that you bring to it? If at all you bring a special kind of attention to it?
I think we are all aware in day-to-day life. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do most things. You wouldn't be able to cross the road or cut a vegetable. If that level of awareness isn't there, we would be injuring ourselves all the time.
Oh, okay.
Right. So without awareness, we can't function actually. It is the duration and then the quality of the awareness that varies from task to task and from person to person. And like any activity, to make it really easy to understand, like let's say you're trying to ride a bicycle. Initially, you have to be conscious about everything. Right? How am I riding? What's happening on the road? Pedaling, brake, everything. You're very conscious of everything. As you get better at it, then certain processes become automatic. And then certain things are taken over by the subconscious. Similarly, in meditation, whatever meditation philosophy or method you use, you do have to be conscious initially. And slowly you ingrain some of those habits of being aware of how you are responding to situations, what's going on in your mind. And slowly then subconscious takes over, that you are aware, okay, this is where I am. I'm probably losing my cool, or I'm getting agitated, whatever. And you learn to step back and observe your own self. And in many cases, you will be able to appropriately respond, or maybe silence is the best option in some cases. So yeah, I think it still requires conscious effort every day. Part of it becomes automatic and subconscious.
So you're saying awareness is an effort.
To be aware, you do have to put an effort at times. Yes.
Okay.
It's always there, but when you're completely distracted and your mind is running all over the place, awareness is you can always be aware, but for past habits are such that you're completely overwhelmed with emotion. And at that point in time, if you're at least aware that I'm emotional, even that is a great step. Sometimes even that is not possible.
Okay, this is a very interesting point that I would want to discuss. Initially, in my practice, and the practice of a lot of friends that I spoke to, one is judging oneself a lot more than before. So I'm supposed to be aware, oh, I was supposed to be aware, but I didn't give it attention, and this happened, and I reacted in a certain manner. I spoiled this relationship, I spoiled the result of the work that I was doing. The expectations take over very quickly. Have you had those sort of instances? Do you still have them? And what is the way to deal with something like that?
Yeah, I think we should go back a step back and see most of these, in fact, almost all of these emotions that come up, they are not in our control actually. So so the one fundamental understanding which we probably have to develop over a period of time is they are not self. We think I am generating this emotion. It is my emotion, my anger. The sense of my is very strong. So then we judge ourselves.
Wait, I want to just comprehend what you just said. They are not myself, but they are happening to me. So I am feeling angry about something.
Yes.
The loss of control, maybe.
Yes.
Even though I am supposedly a meditator at that point of time. Sometimes it happens while you're meditating itself. You get angry at something and you don't know, and you just keep on creating dialogues in your mind or whatever. So how is it not me? Is there any way to look at it?
Yeah, the way to look at it is that these things will arise and they will pass away. And their arising and passing away also is not in my hands. So you're taking something that is actually not in my hands, that will arise and pass away at its own duration, and making it me and mine. Right?
Okay, so you're saying the helplessness becomes not a part of me. It is just, it is.
It is a feeling that is arisen. Right? You're having a loved one pass away in front of you. You can fight it and say, why is he or she passing away? But the reality is the person is passing away. It has nothing to do with you. The fact that the person is a relative of yours or is related to you is making that experience that much more difficult. Isn't it? Similarly, anger, similarly, sorrow, similarly, grief, it's an emotion that's arising for whatever past conditions were there in your mind. And this particular incident or somebody saying something triggered it. And if we are accepting that it is something that's arising of its own, and if we just be with that emotion, that feeling, it will arise and it will reach its peak and it will slowly pass away. And even to do this, you need to have a certain level of acceptance, I should say. And accepts that these things are happening And in that moment, I could not distance myself from getting involved with the emotion, and I said something, I did something, and that's all there is to it. But beyond that, we add a level of judgment, right? That I did something bad and it was not conducive for me at my age, with my experience, with my meditation. And that judgment is again a self-view. So you're taking something that is not me and not mine. I got involved with it and now I'm judging myself. Does it happen to me these days? Much lesser than used to happen earlier. But I'm able to at least recognize that, hey, I got swept in this emotion. But I don't have to judge myself for it. I can forgive myself. And if my ego is less enough, I can probably ask forgiveness from the other person as well. And
Okay.
Go forward.
The judgment part I'll come to later. I don't have a thought there because it's too much to comprehend at one go, so that the listeners can also be with us. But one thought that is coming is, won't it make me heartless not to accept my emotions?
No, you're accepting your emotions. You're just saying that they are not completely in my control. Right? So,
Okay.
so you can expand on heartless. Give an example and I can tell you how you can probably.
I'm saying we'll continue with the example you had. If a loved one is passing away in front of me, and I am hurt for loss of control, that I can't handle the situation the way I would have wanted to handle it. It's okay to feel grief. What's wrong with feeling grief?
No, there's nothing wrong in feeling grief. I'm just saying you don't judge yourself harshly with feeling grief, right? Second is that at that moment, if I completely accept the person passing away and know that, hey, only a few moments are left or a few hours are left or a few days are left, I can say, hey, at least whatever is left, let me be completely with this person. Let me be kind, compassionate. Let me be peaceful with that. So if I completely accept the passing, I can actually be peaceful. I'm not fighting nature anymore. I'm just saying.
Is it possible?
It's possible. It is possible.
Okay.
It's possible. It's just that it's difficult for us to dissociate ourselves from the relationship we had with this person. If it were not possible, you wouldn't have the compassion you would have towards a poor person or a person dying in any hospital, or you wouldn't be able to go and approach them because every death would affect you equally as a death of a loved one. But you see, it doesn't. I'm much more capable of going to a burns ward and giving treatment or something to a burn victim who is not my brother or sister.
Yeah, this is an interesting point. Sorry, I want to probe this a little further.
Yeah.
What about things that have already happened? You mentioned that one is able to spend time more constructively, better quality of time with somebody who you have less time with. I think that is, now that I'm talking to you, we have less time all the time. I remember a Zen quote that even if you live long, you will hardly live 100 years or something. And honestly, as one grows, one realizes the wisdom of the statement. Our body is not our body is understood in the terms of when the knee doesn't act the way that I want it to, or the elbow, or whatever, shoulders. So my question to you is, how does being in the present and resolving this, if at all it is being resolved, I'm just giving you the benefit of doubt as of right now for our listeners. But my question is, how does one resolve the past? Or does that remain in the baggage list, if I were to call it, that I'll continue carrying it, that I should have done this, I could have done this better? How do you view that? And what is your personal experience regarding these things? If possible, speak of a failure, because I think it will help us know how you came out of something that you, if possible. You need not give an exact example, but something that helps us understand this point better.
Okay, so there is whatever was bothering you about the past, right? Past incidents have happened, people have come, gone, failures,
Whatever, yeah.
whatever, right? Today, if you're feeling slightly better dealing with those same situations, that means there is some change in your understanding and the way you view them and the way you interpret these events.
Just 1 second. You are referring to me as a normal person or as a meditator?
No. Any individual.
Any individual, right?
Any individual. If today, if the same thing were to happen, what happened in the past,
Yeah.
and you are able to handle that differently, that means there is some change in your understanding and the way you are handling and way you're interpreting these situations.
Yeah.
Right. All you have to do now,
Experience.
all you have to do now is if you are meditating and you are following some spiritual path and you're learning some things about life, about impermanence, about things not being of me or mine or not myself.
Yeah.
Then you go back and look at those events and reinterpret them in that way. And you will see almost all the situations. I don't think any situation is such that it doesn't lend to your current wisdom and say, look, you know what? Yeah, this is what it was. That was meant to be a college friendship and it ended at the college. And that person had different path in life. And so we parted as friends. That company had to fail. And so we lost your job. You see, it has nothing to do with you as a person. Yes, you experienced those failures or that sorrow or grief, but there were conditions, causes and conditions that led to those events. And you were just a part of that journey. And whatever happened in that journey had to happen at that particular time. How we responded causes more grief or harm than the event itself. That's something we'll eventually accept, that our response was such that it causes a lot more.
Okay, how does it differ from those who say that, oh, it's all our fate or destiny, those kind of words? How does your understanding differ? I want to really know I want you to splice it up and be specific. So suppose something, I lost my job, say 20 years back, whenever, and I really liked the job and I thought I would have grown in that and got whatever awards and money and whatever. So I didn't, and I feel very cheesed about it even after so many years. There is actually a particular example. Me and my partner, we both quit at a time after which I think within a year, everybody got lakhs of rupees because the company got sold to somebody else. And everybody got some kind of money. And me and my partner were clear that we weren't bothered about that. But sometimes I think, imagine getting like this 20 lakhs or 50 lakhs, whatever everybody was getting, and it was like, wow, that kind of money you don't get while working on individual jobs. So there is that thought. So how do you look at it? How is it different from fate? Why should I not blame some blind destiny or something that ruined my chances at that moment had I stayed or whatever?
No, I mean, you left because at that point your wisdom said that it was the right thing to do, right? And even if that 20 lakhs or 50 lakhs had come to you, right? Later on, certain events would have happened in your life, which that money would have been of no use. You wouldn't be able to buy some things with those money which you have lost, which money cannot buy.
Is that a negative way of looking at things?
No, it's not a negative way. All I'm saying is that whatever happened in the past, had it happened differently, it could still not change certain aspects of your life. We just assume that everything, had it happened to my liking, my life would be so much better.
Yeah.
That's every individual's perception.
Yes,
but
it is.
It is, right? But then when you see all these events that happened in our past, they shape who we are today.
That is true.
And whatever wisdom or whatever peace or whatever harmony we have in our life today wouldn't have been possible without those hardships in the past. And
so are you saying sadness is compulsory?
Sadness will arise. Suffering from that sadness is not compulsory.
Please please explain this a little more better.
So when your daughter gets married, being sad is natural.
Yeah.
But to suffer from it, go depressed and hit the bottle is not compulsory.
Okay,
Right?
that was a good example.
Yeah. So you can actually appreciate the fact that you took good care of her, and now she's starting another journey with another individual. And you're handing over a very well groomed, well brought up daughter to another person and wish them the best in the journey. And if you can find peace and happiness in that, I think that is the right way to live. Even if that 20 lakhs had come, I don't think that perspective can come in your life. That peace cannot come in your life.
That is very interesting way to look at things. So if one is looking at destiny also, you're saying you need to look at the complete picture. You cannot look only one side of the picture in black and white saying this would have happened, so this would have happened.
Yes.
Other things can still happen.
Yes. And you also ask a question in the final moments, right? If whenever you're breathing your last few moments, how much of these things really matter? Whatever we are thinking about the past, would any of that matter to you in the last few breaths of your life? And the answer eventually will be no.
I don't think we think like that. No? Do I think
We
of
don't.
myself in the
Yes.
last moment? I don't.
Yes, and you should. Because COVID made that very apparent to you that anybody, anytime can go, even though it was always the truth. That
Okay, wait. I have a question. Yes, you're actually covering a lot more ground than I expected. So when I'm thinking of death, I'm not only thinking of my death, I'm also thinking of other people's death. Now, because I'm taking the COVID example, because it happened so suddenly to us. It was a news in China somewhere, and we may have our opinions about it. But when it started coming closer home, when we lost loved ones or people that we knew, and stories that shocked us out of our wits, I think it still was away, and one didn't think that I would pass. I'm just trying to be honest here. How does one perceive things? So how do you look at death? Is it my own death? Is it your own death? Is it the death of somebody else? Is it death as a concept? I'll also tell you why I'm asking this question. Just 2 or 3 days back, today happens to be my dad's death anniversary. And I didn't remember it. I didn't remember it in the sense of I didn't know what date it was today, because I was busy doing something else. Last week I remembered it, and so suddenly I saw something as it was 17th of June. And one of the things that I've realized about myself for sure, there is this quote unquote funeral wisdom that I have. So when I'm thinking of death, which has actually happened, and somebody else who's died, and I've been to a funeral, and there is this whole thing that I talk about, it's karma, and we need to be prepared, and this is our inevitable destiny, and all of us are definitely going to die. I am like anybody else at the funeral. I think in 5-10 minutes, we also land up talking about how the stock markets are doing and something else, and it becomes one of the many things that one is doing. I'm honest about it. Like, I do think about that wisdom. It's not that I am being dishonest. So what would you like to tell me about that in this scenario now? Because you mentioned COVID times, this question is very particular about death of someone, death of me, anybody else.
I think death is that singular point that kind of, if you use contemplation of it properly, it makes your life that much easier. Does this really matter in the end? Everything that you do, that you're so caught up in, where things may not go your way, right? And you are resisting from within. You have to ask yourself, oh, if I didn't get this payment from this client, it's going to upset me, but in the final analysis, does it really matter? And then your answer would be, no, it wouldn't. I'm not telling you not to do that client and get the money back, but in the process that we suffer so much, right? The emotions we generate, all the anger, the resentment, right? With any
Is it impractical also? Why isn't it practical to want my money?
No, it is practical. I'm telling you, it's not impractical at all. What is not beneficial to you is to get so worked up over things, right? Like, your daughter didn't agree about something, or didn't listen to you, then you get really furious, or somebody, hit your vehicle from the back and then you lose your cool.
Yeah.
Right? So many of these things, they don't, and if you just sit and think, hey, why am I so bothered about everything, not going my way? In the final analysis, I'm going to leave all of this behind. And what that gives you, when you really think about the final moment and the fact that I won't carry any of this, it'll actually weaken your hold on many of these things in life. Chodo. It's okay, let go. Let me forgive. Let me let go of this.
This is the first time I have heard let go in a very practical manner. One has heard of this in songs, in a lot of literature, but one doesn't understand what letting go means most of the time. You're saying that I have picked up the issue. I am the one who has to let go of the issue.
Yes.
And the dispassionate way with which I look at myself will help me let go of the issue.
Yes.
Okay. What about the negative? I'm just asking so that so many people would have these kind of questions. Some of the answers I kind of know through experience. Some of them are just being discussed to understand this better. How will it not make me morose or sad, or are you saying this lightening up of things because I am no longer holding them? I'll be able to enjoy them more, or would it be
Yes.
less?
Your enjoyment would be more, and anything that leaves you or you leave it with a good intention. So you were talking about the death of others. So if you know the other person is going to die, right, which the person is definitely going to, you don't know when the person is going to die. You don't know when you're going to meet the person next. How
I
would you
would be
treat the person?
kinder.
You would be kinder. You would be much more compassionate. You would, every moment you spend with this person, you would make it count. Right? You wouldn't be checking your phone when the person is talking, because hey, ये कभी भी जा सकता है, मैं कभी भी जा सकता हूँ. So I would actually give 100% to those conversations on those relationships. And when it is over, you part very well, because you may never see this person again.
Does one reach a place like that where your heart is happy about leaving others as well?
Not leaving others as much as in, what, this is all the time I have with this person, and I may never see this person again.
No, I mean after it has happened. So suppose we are both talking, and for any reason tomorrow we are unable to speak, or life has it, we both can't speak. Either you or I pass away, or both of us pass away.
Yeah.
So this won't happen again.
Yeah.
Is it possible for me to be happy in this moment or later? So tomorrow I find out that you are no longer there. How can I be happy about the fact?
No, you can be
I'm
happy
trying to
about the
understand.
fact. No, you can be happy about the fact that this conversation we had was completely, wholehearted, and you were completely present here. It was genuine. There was no pretense in any of our exchanges, and whatever we shared, compassion, love, was genuine. And the last conversation you had, the last time you saw the person, was a very happy moment, right? And that's all. So even if you were alive and I couldn't talk to you for the rest of my life, I would still remember Bunty very, very fondly, very happily. So that sense of sadness wouldn't be there.
Isn't it a very tall order? I am asking from the point of, see, under the word meditation, there are so many things that are happening in the world that it boggles the mind to even understand. There are so many miraculous things, and like one of those evangelists one sees, and the lame shall walk and the blind shall see, and this will happen and that will happen. Thankfully, I have never been buying into that. One has worked whatever one can, and believed and done things which are, because somebody else may have the sentiment that you have to try like this. But internally, I've been okay with whatever comes. So my question to you is, if I've understood correctly the conversation so far, so you're saying because one is very loosely holding things and working with what the present moment has got, trying not to delve too much in the past, too much into the future, trying to be with the person or the event or the thought, and also disassociating oneself at the same time, knowing that this will not stay.
Yes.
So you are paying it full attention, but you are also acknowledging your helplessness at that's the best I can do. There's nothing more actually. And so I can only do what I can do. So let me explain this. So suppose you are asking me for money and I seem to have the money or I don't have the money. I can have the right heart at least. Okay, I want to help you. Let us see what happens. It may happen, it may not happen, but at least I go back home or I go back from this conversation thinking it's okay. I will try, but if nothing else, my good wishes are with you that your problem gets solved. Have I understood this correctly so far?
Yeah, good enough. Yes, fair enough.
Yeah. You're saying it is helpless. I choose to call it helplessness, but sheerly for talking purposes. It's not really the depth of meaning of helplessness. Basically, saying that in this moment, there are only these things that I can do.
Yes.
So, for example, if I were to push it and you needed a certain amount of money, say 20,000 rupees, and you asked me, and I seem to have only 3,000 rupees at this point of time. And I decide that I need 1,000 from this, but I can give you 2,000, or I need 2, or I'll give you 1, or whatever. I am happy that I contributed to your solution.
Yeah.
So not only have I the satisfaction of understanding your problem, empathizing with you, I have contributed in a very small manner, and because this is all I can really do.
Yes.
This is the critical differentiation I want to make. That I may want to give you the entire 20K because you are so dear to me, but I don't have it. So I am giving you a certain small amount, hoping that it will help and also land up feeling good about you. May you come out of your financial problem at this point of time. And that gives me freedom from this association with the self again and again. That, oh, look, I did this for you, or I didn't do this for you. One tends to become a little more looser about the whole subject. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And I, as a receiver, will be very grateful for whatever little I get. Even if I couldn't get the money from you, you just wished me well and said, hope your problem gets solved and I'll try contact others. Even that much of, brotherhood or companionship or concern or compassion is a matter of gratitude for me. Because I know somebody cares there.
So at that point, I'm anyway forced to take the highest position possible to me vis-a-vis our relationship, because this is the example continuing. It is about anything else in the world that I'm doing. I have to work for something and give you something in time. You're my client, or else we have a business rapport, or you're a colleague, or something else altogether. But I'm giving my full attention, time, love, compassion to the subject at hand.
Yeah.
Because I have anyway disassociated with myself and my attachment to the other things that you're talking about, and lessening the burden on my heart.
Yes.
It won't completely go away perhaps, but to the largest extent, whatever has gone away frees me to act in the present.
Yes.
Yeah, this is doable.
Yes.
This is doable.
It has been done. It has been done by multitudes. That's why we are living on earth with whatever is there. They may not call it meditation, or they may not call it social work, but humanity has survived because of a lot of such selfless acts of love and compassion.
Yeah. I am not even okay. Now let's go to the other aspect of it. Why do suppose I want to harm you? Why is that not okay enough? Suppose you already harmed me earlier, and I've got this chance to harm you back. Why should this 100% not work there? What is your take on that?
No, like that's what I'm saying is that when you reflect on what is happening when somebody has harmed you, you realize you are suffering, basically.
Yeah.
Right? And you're suffering. And then you also realize that by not forgiving the other person, the person who has harmed me, I am just continuing the suffering even after the event is over.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Right? And so
Yeah.
who then is suffering? The person who has committed the act isn't suffering anymore. I am the one who's carrying that in my head, and I'm going on for 10, 20 years of what has happened. He's done it once, or she's done it once. And I'm carrying it and continuously, scratching that wound and just letting it fester and fester and fester. And to harm you, I have to again raise another level of negativity, another level of ill intent in my mind, and then harm you and then suffer a little more for that.
Okay, let me reduce the time frame for this one. I just took my bike out and turned, and somebody came in because he or she was coming from the wrong side, and they banged into me, and they caused me financial harm or bodily harm because of their insensitive and the wrong way of functioning. At that point, suppose I have the power to get them to whatever, to swear at them or to bash them up or to get them arrested or whatever. What is wrong? They've just harmed me immediately. I'm trying to reduce, because for 20 years I can understand. Once in a while I understand, because it's too very heavy also sometimes to carry all these things. But in a minute, in the span of 30 seconds, sometimes you want to do justice. What is wrong in the example I gave?
No, what happens there is that you get so worked up, your health gets so upset. If you are aware of what that shouting, swearing does to you, that if you could really look into your body and look at how that incident affects your life, you'll realize, hey, it was not worth it. It's not that I have not got angry, I have not sweared at people, I've done enough to share. But today, with these years of practice and whatever I've reflected, I've realized that, hey, if I start getting really angry, and even if I think the situation makes it right, I'm still harming myself a lot. And then that incident of anger or swearing, it definitely makes me do it another time in the future.
Yeah.
And so this habit keeps on continuing, and I end up being that 60-year-old or 70-year-old angry, grumpy guy, right? That was started when I was probably a kid, and I never put a break on it. And I think that's why.
This is good, because it does go back to what you started with, saying that how to learn to disassociate yourself from what are, now the word comes to me, tendencies.
Yes. You can only repair your bike, or you can get treated in a hospital. For that, if you want them to reimburse you, that's fair enough. But if they don't want to do that, if they don't want to repair your bike, or they don't want to reimburse, then you have a couple of options, and you have to choose whether they are even worth it, like going to the station or filing a case and all. If even those if you feel they aren't worth your time, let go and just take it and move.
Yeah, I do understand, because of, again, the earlier example, once one disassociates from oneself, then a lot of this does get, the Hindi word halka comes to mind. It's like, let's figure out. Like one of my friends was mentioning today, he's also a meditator. He says Murphy's law applies every time you are in a queue. Every time you are in a queue and you see the other queue is moving faster, you go there, then that one becomes slower. And inevitably, it's going to become slower the moment you enter. Everything was functioning all right. You need to make your peace with wherever you are, whatever speed the queue is going.
Yes.
And he says it's happened so many times that it is not funny. That wherever he's tried to be smart, is not worked. And I smiled and I said, yeah, it's happened to me a couple of times. And I think now the way one looks at it is that okay, this is where I am. There are 10 people ahead of me. It happens almost every second day at the petrol pump, because I now the petrol pump is quite close to my house, so I know their timings. So if I really want to go at a time when there are there's a lesser number of people, I go at 6 or 7 in the morning, and it's the fastest. After that, once 8 o'clock is gone, I know that it's going to be. And if I have to at that point of time, I go with the understanding that I've got to stand in a queue. I will choose the line which is the queue which works the best for me, which has the least number of people. But once I'm in, I don't keep on looking at that one or that one. Just keep on being there and try and be, yeah, with my destiny, if I were to call it at that point of time, because the word doesn't matter. I just am here. That's it. This is the time, and I have to accept it.
Yes, and that
And
that
it
is the
frees
time.
me.
Yeah, and that is the time that nature is telling you to develop your patience.
Sorry.
It's nature is telling this is the time you use to develop your patience.
Yeah.
Patience of right, accepting this moment is like this. There is this you in
Yeah.
front of
Yeah.
me, and whatever meditation you want to do, whatever philosophy you follow, that is the place to apply it.
Yeah. I also find that although we love to segregate things, there is a unity in understanding and actions that happens to me. Uh, so if I'm compassionate in one place, it's very rare that I'll be rude or angry at somebody else for a longer period of time. I'll have at least some bit of compassion, even in the most unexpected places. So nature does change me once I adopt a certain loosening of the tendency, whatever it is. There is help that happens. I do not know whether there is a force or whatever. I don't think too much about it. I feel nicer. I feel protected, but there is not necessarily uh, a thought that I have about where it comes from. I think I've been okay, and I'll manage this moment, and let's see what happens. And slowly, everything else seems to work at its own pace. And okay, it's good because there was one question I was missing, and is it possible to be happy all the time?
If you are centered within yourself, it is possible.
All the time.
All the time, because you are not looking at external events as something that you want to happen a certain way. You are accepting whatever happens. It is possible. You may get disturbed because we are not living in some lab, right? In an extremely controlled environment. We have relationships, we have people, we are interacting with social systems. So over the period of years, we have accumulated, certain opinions, certain viewpoints. And when those opinions, viewpoint gets, threatened or violated, your mind will, go back and say it shouldn't have happened, or even
Yeah.
this is not being maintained in the world. But even in those situations, if you realize, hey, you know what, I have absolutely no control on it. This is the way I thought it should happen, and it's not happening because there are reasons for it. Let's say what happened during COVID, how the medical community behaved, or what happened during the race riots in the US. There are reasons why those things happened. And even today, when you look at the news, there is a lot of things that are happening you feel are fundamentally wrong. But from a nature's perspective, it's just that you had these conditions in society, you had people influenced by those conditions. They've turned out to be a certain way, and they're acting out their tendencies. And that's what we are facing day in, day out. And when those events or people directly or indirectly touch us, then we tend to lose our happiness. And
okay, one little thing that just crossed my mind. So if we are speaking on a worldly level, global level, doesn't acceptance at that point mean one is allowing injustice to happen?
No, not I'm telling you, not allowing injustice to happen, but within your sphere of influence, whatever you can do it to the best of your ability. So in Mumbai, if the lot of injustice is there and all you can do is feed a few people on a Saturday, and you've done that well, and that's all that is within your purview, right? And you've done that with compassion and you spread goodwill and you took care of that person. And whatever that care and love and affection you've given, that will influence that person to behave in a certain way in society. And maybe that's all what you can do on a Saturday afternoon. And if this much everybody could do, a lot of the injustice wouldn't be there. And my contention is that people aren't able to do even this much because they're so engrossed in their own life, so engrossed in trying to fulfill their own aspirations, finding pleasure in their own life, spending their own money, drowning in their own depressions and in their own sorrows, that they're not able to step out of it and care for the other person. And if you could do that, I think life would be a lot more simpler and happier.
Yeah, I like the drift of the conversation because it moved from personal to being part of a complete ecosystem where your individual actions still matter. They are no longer discussions about news and what happened in so country and the other country and whatever is happening. At any point, if my understanding is correct of what you've been saying, is one has to first disassociate oneself and not invest very strongly in any subject, because once you've invested, then it leads to certain kinds of coloring of the topic itself, because you can no longer see it dispassionately. So once that is done and you can contribute the best that you can, understanding the circumstances, defining how much you can really do instead of getting worked up about what you can't do. And in living a good life for myself, I'm actually landing up contributing to the betterment of the world automatically.
Yes.
Good. Thank you so much. I think this has been a wonderful conversation, sheerly because meditation actually is spoken about in so many sacred terms and this holy aura around it, which it may have or it may not have. I don't have a point of view about that. But it kind of slices away from the daily life. People put it up on a pedestal and say, okay, this is for certain kind of people. I am not this kind of person and I don't want to do this. And what can one person do, or how can I change myself? And it is impossible to change any habits or whatever. But you very kindly, you've gone through each thread saying, if this is how you work, and slowly things can change. And I think it's a very positive and strong note for anybody who wants to start working on themselves. Calling it meditation or not is also really unimportant.
Yes.
One can start with just living right and doing what they think is right in the world without harming somebody else, because that itself is no longer a easy term to use. What is right to oneself. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this chat thoroughly, and I want to think about a lot of things that you said. It's so simple and yet it escapes our understanding very often. Very often. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure.
Yes, I'll see you around. Bye.